Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really quite extraordinary journey. We're diving into C.S. Lewis, specifically his work, The Great Divorce.
A fantastic book.
It really is. And our mission today, you could say, is to explore this amazing allegory and tackle, well, a huge question, really. What is the true nation of heaven and hell?
A question people have asked forever, right?
Exactly. And Lewis comes at it with this characteristically brilliant idea. He suggests hell isn't, someplace God sends people as punishment.
No, not at all in his view.
Instead, it's more like a state of mind, something freely chosen, a soul that's become so small, shrunken by self-pity, by pride.
Yeah, so small it just can't handle the reality of heaven. The sheer joy of it is unbearable.
It's quite a concept. So this journey isn't just through a story, it's deep into human choice, isn't it? And transformation.
It absolutely is. What I find so compelling is how Lewis reframes it all. It's not rigid dogma.
No.
It's presented as this journey of the soul. Picture like a bus ride.
Right, the famous bus ride.
But it's not about geography, obviously. It's about spiritual conditions. You're going from this utterly bleak, gray town towards the foothills of heaven. These places are allegories, vivid pictures of internal states.
And the core idea right from the get-go.
The core insight from Lewis, I think, is that the line between heaven and hell, it's internal, deeply internal. It all comes down to the individual's choice over and over again.
His choice to what? Embrace joy.
To embrace joy, yes, or reject it. To choose self-giving love or cling to the self. To accept this bigger, brighter reality or shrink back into misery.
And you see characters on this bus who get the chance, a literal chance to step out of it all. And many just can't take it. The light is too bright, the joy too intense, they choose to go back.
That's the part that really grabs you, isn't it? That the choice is always there and people can and do turn away.
It is powerful.
So Lewis sets this up immediately with this incredible contrast. You start in this gray, dreary town.
And his description is just haunting. It's perpetual twilight, endless dissatisfaction, people moving further and further apart.
Driven by, what, petty arguments, old grudges.
Exactly, until they live miles apart, barely interacting. And the place itself, it feels insubstantial. The houses aren't quite solid. The rain is just gray and depressing.
Everything is just draining away. Color, meaning, connection.
It's like the self-made prison of unhappiness, where even imagining joy feels
Impartial
more active.
description.
I
And
see.
then the bus arrives.
And suddenly, boom, complete contrast. The foothills of heaven.
Breathtakingly beautiful. Intensely real. Almost painfully so for the visitors.
Yeah, that detail about the solidity is amazing. The grass is so solid, so real that the ghosts, as he calls them, from the gray town.
They can barely stand on it. They're like translucent.
Almost
wispy.
floating, yeah. Their very presence feels out of place against this vibrant, living reality.
Precisely. And that visual contrast, that geographical shift, is really a profound metaphor, isn't it? For psychological states.
Yeah.
Spiritual states.
How so?
Well, the gray town is such a powerful image of a mind trapped by its own making. A Course in Miracles talks about this idea that the will is not free to assert itself simply because it believes it is not free.
Ah, so it's a self-limiting belief system.
Exactly. We build the walls of our own prison. If you genuinely believe you're stuck, you won't even try the door, right? It's a fundamental trap of consciousness.
That makes sense. It's like an illusion you maintain yourself.
Kind of like what Emerson wrote about in his essays. He talks about dream delivering us to dream, and there is no end to illusion.
So the gray town isn't just a place.
It's a state of being, a self-perpetuating illusion. It's fueled by all those individual choices, the grievances, the perspectives that keep people locked in their own little miserable narratives, constantly dreaming the same sad dream.
Wow. Our internal world literally shaping our experience.
Yeah, and if you think bigger picture, this flimsy gray existence is, well, it's a profound separation from something more fundamental, more real.
Like what?
Well, Eckhart Tolle, in A New Earth, talks about this formless dimension. He calls it a luminous space that underlies everything. The whole world of form couldn't exist without it, he says.
Okay.
So heaven, in Lewis's story, it's like being closer to that fundamental reality, more aligned with it. That's why it feels so solid, so vibrant.
And the ghosts feel flimsy because they're disconnected from that.
Exactly. They're literally out of touch with what's truly real. Their own insubstantiality reflects their inner state.
That's fascinating. Okay, so the journey starts. The bus gets these translucent figures, these ghosts, into this overwhelming, stunning reality at Heaven's Edge. And this is where the real drama happens, right? These encounters.
Yes, the encounters are crucial. Each one is a test, a direct invitation to let go.
To let go of their earthly stuff, their baggage.
Precisely. Their grievances, their pride, their attachments. And one encounter that always just floors me is the one between the lady who's radiant and joyful.
A bright person, he calls her.
Right. And this small, shrunken dwarf. And he's literally got this other figure with him, this loud, dramatic tragedian.
The imagery is just incredible. The tiny dwarf, almost invisible, held by a chain.
That chain is key. It's his attachment, his refusal to let go.
And the tragedian, this booming, melodramatic voice.
Speaking for the dwarf, with this, Lewis says, manly bullying tone, amplifying all the self-pity, all the victimhood.
Well, the lady, she's just pure love, isn't she? Pleading with him.
She cries out, Frank, Frank, look at me, look at me. What are you doing with that great ugly doll? Let go of the chain, send it away. It is you I want. Don't you see what nonsense it's talking?
It's heartbreaking. You see the whole struggle right there.
It really is. And that scene with the lady, the dwarf, the tragedian, it's Lewis nailing down his whole argument about attachment, pride, self-pity.
So the tragedian isn't just some random figure.
No, it's the embodiment of the dwarf's whole self-constructed identity, his story of suffering, his victim narrative, everything he uses to define himself.
And he thinks it is him, or part of him.
He seems to, or at least he thinks he needs it. And what's so poignant is how the lady's joy, her laughter, it starts to get through. Just a little.
Yeah, Lewis writes that the dwarf struggled hard to keep it out, but already with imperfect success.
And then the crucial bit, he was even growing a little bitter when he actually looked at her, at the lady. It's a tiny moment, but it symbolizes that whole human struggle, doesn't it? Releasing those destructive self-images, the soul literally expanding when it lets go of the chains and turns towards joy.
But why is it so hard for Frank? For the dwarf, is it just pride? Or is there, I don't know, some weird comfort in being miserable?
That's a great question. I think it's often a mix. Lewis touches on something similar in Mere Christianity, actually.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how even good things like natural gifts, intelligence, talent, whatever, they carry this danger of self-satisfaction, pride.
Making it harder to enter the kingdom.
Exactly. He says it's hard for those who are rich in this sense to enter the kingdom. And the dwarf, you could say he's rich in his misery.
You're rich in misery.
Yeah. Well, he clings to it. It gives him a kind of negative importance, maybe.
Yeah.
A way to get pity or maybe even control others through guilt. His suffering is his identity.
So letting it go would feel like dying, losing himself.
It seems like it. It's profound self-sabotage, isn't it? Choosing the pain, over a joy that feels alien and threatening to the ego.
But why? Why do we humans do that? Cling to the things that hurt us. Why choose misery, even if it's unconscious?
It's a deep question. Michael Singer, in The Untethered Soul, he offers a really interesting way to think about it.
How's that?
He says something like, if you close around the pain and stop it from passing through, it will stay in you.
Closing around the pain.
Yeah, and that chain the dwarf holds, that is him closing himself off, clinging to the pain, to the story of suffering.
Okay.
But Singer also says, if you relax and let the energy pass through, then it will go away.
Relax and let it pass through.
Right. And the dwarf can't relax. He can't let go of the tragedian, of the self-pity, and that's what keeps him small, bound. He's actively, maybe without realizing it, blocking his own expansion.
Wow. It's like his will is trapped.
Exactly. And St. John of the Cross, writing centuries ago in Dark Night of the Soul, described this perfectly from a mystical angle.
What did he say?
He explained how passions and affections subdue the will. So if the soul gets attached to certain feelings, certain passions, the will itself gets tangled up. It conceives passion.
The will conceives passion.
Yeah, and in this manner, the will is taken captive and loses its liberty. That's the dwarf's situation in a nutshell. He's captive to his pride, his need for pity, his self-importance.
So his will isn't really free to choose the lady's offer.
It's compromised. His identity is so wrapped up in the suffering, letting go feels like annihilation. And that's terrifying for the ego, for that constructed self.
So it's not just a surface thing, it's deep. And Lewis shows other examples too, doesn't he? On the bus.
Oh, definitely. There's the big ghost, the one who's full of bluster and pride. He thinks heaven isn't good enough for him, or he's too good for the people there.
All right, can't give up his sense of superiority. And the intellectual ghost.
Ah, yes. The one who wants to debate everything, analyze it, catalog it, take notes.
Instead of just experiencing it, being in heaven.
Precisely. He wants to understand heaven from the outside, not surrender to it from the inside. They all drive home Lewis's point about these internal blocks we create.
It really is incredible how this one story, this allegory, manages to pack in so much about us, about the human condition.
It really does.
And this whole idea of internal states, these self-made prisons or paths to freedom, you hear echoes of it everywhere, don't you? Across different philosophies, different spiritual traditions.
Absolutely. Lewis is writing a Christian allegory, obviously, but the underlying truths he's pointing to about the self, about freedom, the obstacles we put in our own way, they feel remarkably universal.
So what other insights do some of these other sources offer about this struggle, about how we get free?
Well, you're right. The universality is striking, and many traditions really hammer home this idea that our reality is, well, largely self-created.
How so?
Take conversations with God. It's very direct. It says, your perspective creates your thoughts, and your thoughts create everything.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
It is. It puts the power and the responsibility squarely on our internal state. It goes on to say, everything that occurs is the outward physical manifestation of your innermost thoughts, choices, ideas, and determinations regarding who you are and who you choose to be.
So our personal heaven or hell, we're co-creating it all the time.
That's the implication. It forces you to look at your own authorship in your life, doesn't it? Your internal landscape directly shaping what you experience.
Yeah, it really does.
And you see something similar in the Fifth Agreement. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. says, you are the creator of your own life story.
Creator of your story.
And he suggests that using the word impeccably, speaking with integrity, with truth, can literally transform your life into your personal heaven.
So it's about our internal dialogue, the stories we tell ourselves, even how we speak.
Seems so. The words we use, even just in our heads, they have this immense creative power, according to this view. They shape our reality.
So it's not just what happens to us, but how we frame it, how we talk about it. That's a lot of responsibility.
But what about, following rules? Sometimes focusing on external rules feels easier, but does it actually free us?
Yeah, that's a really important point. And it's a trap, isn't it? We can get caught up in the externals. Theologia Germanica, that medieval mystical text, it warns about this.
What does it say?
It warns against getting caught up in false must-bes nor ought-to-bes, all those things we think we have to do or should be doing.
And why is that a problem?
Because focusing too much on those external rules can just create much disquietude and difficulty. It can actually hide a deeper internal mess,
So you could be following all the rules on the outside.
But inside, you're still wrestling with the same old stuff. Pride, resentment, fear. Because you haven't dealt with the root cause within you. Like Lewis's big ghost, he's so worried about who should be in heaven, who deserves it, that he completely misses the chance to just be there himself. He's stuck in the ought-to-bes.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just what we do, but the internal state we do it from. Which brings us back to those attachments, those chains the dwarf has. What do other traditions say about that struggle? The fight with the self, with illusion, with letting go.
Yeah, that struggle is absolutely central in so many paths, especially perhaps in Eastern thought. Think about Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha.
Oh, right.
The main character is Siddhartha. He desperately wants to free myself from the self, but he finds he can't overcome it directly. He says he could only deceive it, could only flee from it, only hide from it.
That sounds a lot like the dwarf trying to ignore the lady, clinging to his tragedian.
Doesn't it? And remember that scene where Siddhartha looks in the river? He sees his own face, then his father's face, mirroring the same suffering, the pain of separation, of attachment, of yearning.
Highlighting how these things repeat themselves, generation after generation. Exactly. It shows the self-perpetuating cycle of attachment if we don't consciously break it, if we don't face it and release it.
So why do we cling, even to misery? Is it just fear of the unknown?
Fear plays a part, definitely. But the Philokalia, that collection of early Christian spiritual writings, it offers a really detailed look at this.
What's its take?
It suggests that every pleasure is inevitably succeeded by pain. And that self-love, which is always chasing pleasure and trying to avoid pain, it actually leads to untold corrupting passions.
How does that work? Chasing pleasure leads to corruption.
Well, the idea is that by desperately trying to isolate pleasure and push away all pain, we ironically create more suffering. We get trapped in this narrow self-love that blinds us to deeper truths, to selfless joy. It's a very subtle psychological trap.
A self-defeating pattern.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And Eckhart Tolle, again, in The Power of God. Now, he puts it so simply. He just says that suffering is due to identification with form.
Identification with form. What does that mean exactly?
It means defining ourselves by temporary things. Our bodies, our jobs, our social roles, our past hurts, our possessions, all the forms in our lives.
Okay.
And Lewis's ghosts. They are totally identified with their earthly forms, aren't they? Their old identities, their losses, their grievances. They can't let go of who they were.
Even in heaven's foothills.
Right. They're stuck in their old limited selves, defined by those forms. And that prevents them from experiencing the boundless reality, the pure being that heaven represents. They're too solid in the wrong way.
Wow. So it's this deep identification, this clinging to an old self, that's the real barrier. Okay, so if these are the problems, the obstacles, what's the way out? What do these different paths suggest for liberation, for actually letting go of the chain?
Right. This is the crucial part, isn't it? Moving from diagnosis to the path of healing and freedom. And many traditions focus on transforming the will.
Transforming the will.
Yes. A Course in Miracles, for instance, says when the will of the sonship and the Father are one, their perfect accord is heaven.
So aligning our individual will with a higher will, God's will.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The Course suggests that healing starts with the recognition that your will is His. It's about surrendering that small, contracted, ego-driven will, the one that causes all the suffering, the one clinging to grievances and pride.
And realizing our true, deeper will.
Which is always towards love, towards expansion, towards unity. It's letting go of what you think you want to discover what you truly desire at the deepest level.
That sounds like a huge shift.
It is. And the cloud of unknowing, that anonymous mystical text, describes a similar path, but emphasizes pure intention.
How so?
It talks about having a naked intent stretching into God, not dressing it up with specific ideas about God, just a raw, direct reaching out.
A naked intent.
Yeah. And it says the high and the next way to heaven is run by desires and not by paces of feet.
So it's not about physical actions or even complex thoughts. It's about the core desire, the intention.
Exactly. A radical simplicity, moving beyond intellectual understanding or performing rituals, straight to the heart's deepest longing.
Interesting. What about other traditions, like from India?
Well, the Bhagavad Gita offers a path through focused devotion and acquiring wisdom.
Okay.
It says, when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Fixing everything on the Supreme.
Yes, leading to a state called Brahmabhuta, which means being free from material contamination, basically, free from attachments, situated in serving the Lord in transcendental service.
So it's about detachment, single-minded focus.
Detachment from the results of your actions, renouncing selfish desires, and dedicating yourself completely to that higher reality. That's said to bring inner peace and freedom.
And the Yoga Sutras, do they fit in here?
They do. Patanjali describes the Supreme Lord Ishvara as this perfect consciousness, completely untouched by troubles, actions, or subconscious drives.
The state of pure being.
Exactly. Yeah. And the sutras suggest that by fixing your mind on this ideal, meditating on it, you can raise your own consciousness.
Kind of like tuning into that frequency.
That's a good way to put it. Aligning your own awareness with that pure, untroubled state helps you break free from your own mental static, your attachments. It involves ethics, meditation, all aimed at clarifying the mind.
That's a powerful set of ideas, all pointing inward towards this internal shift. And it feels like love and forgiveness must be huge parts of this, right? Lewis himself says, hate the sin, but not the sinner.
Absolutely crucial. You can't really talk about liberation without talking about love and forgiveness. They're central to letting go of those chains.
How does that hate the sin, not the sinner idea work in practice?
Well, it's about discernment, isn't it? Separating harmful actions or patterns from the person's inherent worth or potential. It's fundamental in Christian ethics. It allows you to condemn the wrong act without condemning the person, which opens the door to forgiveness.
Forgiveness for them or for yourself?
Both, really.
Yeah.
If you hold on to hating the sinner, you're still chained to them, aren't you? Still stuck in your own resentment. Letting go of that hate frees you.
That makes sense.
And Conversations with God pushes this idea even further. It says, life is forgiving, and in order to do that, you need to be forgiving to others.
Life is forgiving.
Yeah, and it links it directly.
Yeah.
What you give to another, you give to yourself. So forgiving isn't just a nice thing you do for someone else.
It's something you do for yourself, too.
Fundamentally,
Yeah.
it reframes it as a core principle of how reality works.
Mm.
And that idea that there are no victims and there are no villains because we're co-creating reality, well, that puts immense responsibility on us for our inner state, making forgiveness an act of self-liberation.
Wow. Taking responsibility on that level is huge.
It is. And St. Catherine of Siena, the medieval mystic, She talked about the power of love in all this.
What was her perspective?
She taught that our actions, even good deeds or acts of penance, don't really have ultimate value unless they have the condiment of the affection of love.
The condiment of love. I like that.
Isn't it great? And she said that having an infinite desire for God and real grief for our failings can give infinite merit even to our limited finite actions.
So it all comes back to the internal state, the love, the desire behind the action.
Exactly. It's the intention, the depth of love that transforms the action and transforms us. It requires bringing together memory, intellect, and will, all united in love for God and for others.
And love itself, is that just a feeling or something more?
Well, Eric Fromm, in The Art of Loving, argues strongly it's more than just a feeling. He calls love a decision, it is a judgment, it is a promise.
A decision, a promise.
Yeah. It requires commitment, he says, from the essence of my being. It's not passive, it's an active choice.
Which brings us right back to Lewis's core message in The Great Divorce, doesn't it? The centrality of choice.
It really does. Love, in this view, is a deliberate, sustained act of will, a commitment to connection and self-giving, not just a fleeting emotion. And that choice shapes everything.
Okay, so let's pull this all together now. Bringing it back to Lewis and his incredible allegory, it seems absolutely clear his main point is that hell isn't some cosmic punishment dungeon. It's the consequence, the direct result of choosing again and again to stay small, to cling to that constricted, prideful self.
Nailed it.
And the most mind-bending part is the paradox. The folks in the gray town choose it. They get the bus ticket, they see heaven's doorstep, but the sheer reality, the joy, is too much.
It's intolerable for that shrunken self. They actively choose to go back to the misery they know. They hold on to their chains because letting go feels like self-destruction.
It's a profound statement about the power of the human will, for better or worse.
It really is. That self-chosen nature of hell is Lewis's theological masterstroke, I think. It reflects a self so identified with its own suffering, its own narrative, that it literally cannot bear the joyous reality of heaven. Because heaven demands surrender. It demands letting go of the ego, dissolving those identities built on pride or pity.
A testament to how powerful our own stories and choices are.
Absolutely. But, it's important to remember, this is Lewis's allegorical view. It's not the only view out there, even within religious traditions.
Good point. How does it compare?
Well, if you look at the Quran, for example, you find a different emphasis. It talks about God saying, I shall fill hell with both jinn and humans.
Okay, that sounds more like a divine decree.
Yes. And it describes the dissolute having the fire as their refuge, and each time they purpose to leave it, they're turned back to it. It's presented more as an external consequence, a punishment for what you have committed.
So a contrast between Lewis's internal choice-driven model and a more external decree-based one.
Exactly. It highlights different ways of thinking about justice, responsibility, and the ultimate consequences of our actions or states of being. Neither view is being endorsed here, just noting the contrast.
That's a really helpful clarification, and it makes me think, if Lewis's ghosts are clinging so hard to their self, what is that self anyway? We often just assume it's this solid, single thing.
That's a fantastic question, and it opens up another layer. Sam Harris, in his book Waking Up, talks about things like the split brain phenomenon.
Where the two hemispheres of the brain seem to operate independently?
Right. And Harris argues this shows that our subjective experience, our self, can literally be divided. He says this poses an insurmountable problem for the notion that each of us has a single, indivisible self, much less an immortal soul.
Whoa. So the self the ghosts are protecting might not even be a real unified thing.
It might be more like a construct, a collection of stories, habits, identifications that we think is a solid entity, which makes the choice to let go even more interesting, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if the self isn't this fixed thing, then letting go isn't about losing something fundamental and real. It's more like dissolving an illusion, a constructed identity that was limiting you all along.
That puts a different spin on it. But even with all this talk of choice and maybe illusory selves, Lewis still offers hope, right?
Oh, absolutely. Immense hope. Remember, in Mere Christianity, he reassures us, each time you fall, he will pick you up again.
Yeah.
And he insists that no power in the whole universe except you yourself can prevent him from taking you to that goal of perfection, of becoming the creature you were meant to be.
So ultimate agency still rests with us. Our choice matters, even if we keep messing up.
Exactly. The path back, the choice to reorient, is always available. It depends on our willingness.
Which ties back beautifully to that conversations with God idea.
That there are no victims and there are no villains, because our reality is a co-created reality. It loops back to that profound sense of responsibility for our inner world. Our hell isn't inflicted, it's chosen. And therefore, our heaven is also within reach through conscious, loving choice.
It's a powerful synthesis.
And, Black Elk, the Oglala holy man, he had this beautiful way of putting the duality of experience. He said, "You have noticed that the truth comes into this world with two faces. One is sad with suffering, and the other laughs. But it is the same face, laughing or weeping."
The same face. Wow.
It suggests that suffering and joy aren't absolute opposites, but maybe two aspects of the same reality. And our internal state, our perspective, our choice determines which face we see, which face we inhabit.
Which face we choose to engage with.
Precisely. And even in the most horrific circumstances, think of Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning.
From the concentration camps, yeah.
He emphasized that core personal responsibility, that ultimate freedom to choose how to bear one's burden, to choose one's attitude, one's inner response, even when everything else is stripped away.
Which underlines Lewis's whole point again, doesn't it? That internal state, heaven or hell, is ultimately down to our will, our choice.
Even when facing unimaginable external pressure, that final inner freedom remains.
What a deep and, thought-provoking journey we've taken today through Lewis's imaginative world and out into all these connected ideas.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. And The Great Divorce just lands with such force, doesn't it? This message that heaven and hell aren't just places waiting for us later, but states of being, internal realities, chosen by us constantly.
Moment by moment, really.
Lewis shows us that the Great Divorce, that separation, it's fundamentally a choice of the will. Are we going to cling to that small, shrunken self, wrapped up in pride and grievance?
Or are we going to embrace something bigger? That expansive joy, that selfless love that heaven represents.
It's a choice we make in how we see things, what we hold on to, how willing we are to actually change and grow.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty provocative thought to chew on, perhaps.
Go on.
Well, what chains might you be holding on to right now? What little bits of the gray town might you be living in, maybe unconsciously? Through old resentments or stubborn pride, or maybe just an inability to forgive someone or yourself. James K.A. Smith, in Our Secular Age, he talks about how God's grace often challenges our autonomous individualism and self-crafting. Our deep desire to be totally in control, to build our own reality, sometimes keeps us trapped.
So what happens if we challenge that?
What would happen if you, listening right now, consciously decided to let go of the pain? To release some of that self-pity or pride or that attachment isn't serving you? What if you tried to align your will, even just a little bit, with, as Conversations with God puts it, the highest quality giving and forgiving to others?
Would we grow bigger? Like the dwarf?
Maybe. Maybe we'd find ourselves, like Teilhard de Chardin suggested in The Phenomenon of Man, waking up to horizons and susceptible to fears that your forefathers never knew. Experiencing a new, larger reality of who we are, how we're connected, maybe finding a bit of that heaven right here within reach.
It's a perpetual choice, isn't it?
It really is, and it shapes everything, not just some distant afterlife, but this moment, right here, right now.